Good afternoon and welcome to the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission regular meeting for Monday, May 21st, 2018. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Sasatrian?
Present.
Kafayan?
Present.
Wolfson?
Present.
Wu is absent. President Michaels?
Present.
The agenda for the May 21st, 2018 regular meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on or before Friday, May 18, 2018. Item 2, upcoming council agenda items.
Thank you. President Michaels, members of the commission, we have a few items coming up in the next month. First one is tomorrow night, May 22nd, regarding the Verdugo Park North Master Plan design. We're asking a motion authorizing city manager to execute an amendment to the existing contract that we have with David Volz to proceed with the design and construction documents of the Verdugo Park Master Plan. We did have a meeting last week, and under staff comments, I'll give a brief summary on what has been approved from council. June 5th, we have a mayor's commendation for the Star Youth Program. That's a program that we collaborate with Glendale Police Department, and we will be receiving, the Star graduates will be receiving a mayor's commendation. Second item on the 5th is accepting state grants from EDD in the amount of $500,000. That will be going to our Verdugo Job Center. On June 12th is CDBG annual funding. We did receive some additional funding in the amount of little over $255,000 for our CDBG program. And that's it for the month of May and June, half of June.
Thank you. Are there any comments from commissioners?
No.
I would like to say that I attended the Verdugo 10K trail run this past couple weekends ago. I enjoyed it greatly. It was a great success. Participation was high, and in struggling to find a comment or a suggestion, the only thing I could possibly suggest to improve the event is a bag check. With the number of participants, the parking, many participants parking in the neighborhoods to access the park, having a place to check a bag securely before they participate in the trail run would improve the event and possibly encourage more participation. Are there staff comments?
Yes, President Michaels, members of the commission, as I mentioned earlier, last week staff went to council to approve the master planning of the north end of Verdugo Park. We presented 3 conceptual plans, and council asked us to reduce the scope of work. With that being said, we have asked David Volz, our consultant, to work on construction documents after the contract is approved tomorrow night on a ground level, all-inclusive playground to replace the existing playground, to limit the ramps, and to add more amenities for an all-inclusive, replacing the existing restroom with a building no more than 15 to 1,800 square feet, relocate the community garden, add ADA parking spaces, just ADA parking spaces for the playground and community room and restrooms, replace existing picnic tables with ADA picnic tables, no new perimeter walk path. It was requested to take out the perimeter walk path and the exercise equipment off all 3 plans. And also it was requested that the historic village concept be taken out of all the plans and eventually look into replacing the caretaker's house if needed in the future with a historical. And like I mentioned earlier, we'll be going to council tomorrow to increase the contract for design documents.
Is there a budget allocation amount?
We currently have $3,825,000 in DIF funds. I'm sorry, we have $3,825,000. $500,000 of it is from our CIP funds, and another 500,000 is from our special revenue recreation account.
How much does the cost,
The
how
pa-
much is it reduced
With all the reductions,
changes?
we're estimating between 400,000 to 500,000. We are also estimating that we would need to go to council for some additional funding through our capital improvement funds, because most of the items will not be eligible for DIF, since they're not new amenities being added to the park.
Thank you.
Any further staff comments?
Yes, thank you, President Michaels, members of the commission. I do have several events to announce. On May 24th, from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m., we have the 90-plus birthday celebration at the Adult Recreation Center. On May 25th, we have a Tea Night Out special event at the Downtown Central Library. On June 2nd at 7 p.m., we have a campfire program about bears at Dugmajan Wilderness Park. On June 8th and 22nd, we have a Tea Night Out at Pacific Community Center. And then every Wednesday, we have one at Maple Park Community Center. So that'll be June 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th. And that's from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. On June 8th, as part of the Tea Night Out, we're offering a youth employment workshop at Pacific. And this is just an announcement. The splash pads at Cerritos Park and Pacific Park will become operational daily from June 9th through September 14th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then they'll be operational on weekends only from September 15th through October 14th, also from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. On June 9th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're offering a Riverwalk workday at Glendale Narrows Riverwalk. On June 10th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., Sunday Family Fun Day featuring butterflies at Dugmajan Wilderness Park. On June 16th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., a Wilderness Workday at Dugmajan Wilderness Park. June 17th at 9 a.m., hula from Hawaii to Japan being offered at Brand Tea House. And then we'll be back here for another commission meeting on June 18th at 2:30 p.m. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next on the agenda is 4 oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. The commission may question the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The director may refer the matter to the proper section for investigation and report. And I believe you have one card.
I have one card. Catherine Yurka.
Good afternoon, President Michaels and commissioners. Thank you for your time. I wanted to put one slide on the board. There's something I wanted to bring to your attention. This is a notice that was posted on an indigenous sycamore in Verdugo Park a couple of months ago, notifying the public that the trees were being sprayed. I did want to point out that this is a violation of the Indigenous Tree Ordinance. You are not allowed to staple things into protected trees. And especially if the idea is that you're trying to prevent invasive insects from attacking the tree, damaging the bark is a really good idea. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention and also to staff's attention to see if you could please contact the arborist and make sure that they have the materials they need to post warnings, probably in the ground and not on the trees themselves. The other thing I wanted to mention briefly was Verdugo Park. Thank you for the opportunity to comment here last month and for your comments. I felt really bad, as did many of my neighbors, that we left any impression that we were trying to prevent people from other parts of Glendale from using our park. I assure you that's not the case. And we had a nice conversation over the phone about this. I wanted to clarify that we know that Verdugo Park is not a neighborhood park by any means. It is an asset for the entire city. Our main concern was to make sure that it maintained the qualities that make it so popular with people from all over Glendale, which are the green open space, the turf, and the trees. And we just had a number of concerns that the proposals were doing too much to develop the park, to add concrete and hardscape that would make it less amenable to all of the kind of freewheeling uses that people put it to with badminton nets and volleyball nets and touch football and children's birthday parties where they just run around a lot. So I wanted to clarify that. Mr. Bulanvikian, sorry, no, yeah, sorry, gave a rundown about the city council discussion of the park. We had hoped that there would be a plan D so that we would see something before the city committed to $250,000 in schematic design, design development, and construction documents. But as you heard, that's going on the consent calendar tomorrow. I just would hope that before all of that money is spent, that there would be an update on what's being proposed, because there was a lot of difference of opinion on council, as there was on the Parks Commission, about what should be done in Verdugo Park. And it would be nice before $250,000 is spent to have a sense of what's happening there, because we've had strong thoughts about what would be best for the park, and we just don't want to sort of have to be having this argument again after the city has invested a lot more money into it. So I just want to thank everyone for their time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, President Michaels, about the trees WCA was treating, we were actually notified they had posted signs on the trees. We contacted the vendor and asked them to take them down, and we did inform them in the future, if we do the treatments again, to not be posting it on the tree. So appreciate Ms. Yurka bringing it to our attention. We've already addressed it with the contractor, and they're aware not to do that in the future.
Thank you. Next item.
Item 5, consent items. At A, approval of the minutes of the commission regular meeting held on April 16, 2018.
I will move it.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Commissioners? Thank you. Commissioner Sasatrian?
Actually, I just had a couple of things. One is on my comments about considering the entire park, in addition to being cost-effective, I think I mentioned that it would be more inclusive of the entire park. And where it says that I said if it don't just fix things that are broken, what I used a colloquialism, which might have been not that smart to do. It's old-fashioned colloquialism. But all I was saying was that if the park's current design is working, why change it? Or don't change it. So those would be my two slight
I'm
changes.
sorry, so would you like something removed or changed in your comment?
Yeah, can you change those two things? See, I don't know if I have it. Oh, yes, I did. Okay. So this was in obviously item 7A. Commissioner Wolfson said she would prefer considering the entire park, as it would be inclusive and more cost-effective.
Okay.
And she also said if it's, working as is, not why change it, rather than the second sentence. She also said she believes only in fixing what is broken. I used this colloquialism, but what I meant by it was
Oh, okay. So you would like me to just remove that sentence?
yeah, or just make it, instead of just say if the park is working as is, then there's no need to change it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Is there any other further discussion? We have a motion and a second, so roll call, please, as amended.
Commissioner Sasatrian?
Yes.
Kalfayan?
Yes.
Wolfson?
Yes.
Wu is absent. President Michaels?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item 6, reports information only, continued from 4/16/18 meeting. At A, contract class annual report.
President Michaels, members of the commission, you have the contract class report in your packets. If you have any questions, Mr. Garabedian is here to answer any questions that you might have. But I would like to move forward with the Therapeutic Recreation Annual Report because we do have a PowerPoint presentation. Any
If there's no
questions on that?
comments, we can move forward.
Just to read it into the record, we're going to item 6B, Therapeutic Recreation Annual Report.
Good afternoon, Commissioner President Michaels and members of commission. My name is Kenneth Kahn. I supervise Therapeutic Recreation and also Maple Park Community Center. I'm just here to give you a short introduction about the therapeutic recreation programs that the department provides. Therapeutic recreation is made up of the Club Maple program and the Get Fit program. Both programs serve adults with intellectual disabilities, and the programs are held at Maple Park Community Center. So with that said, we're just going to get into a little slideshow that we've put together. The Club Maple program has been providing services to the intellectually disabled population of Glendale and its surrounding cities for 27 plus years. The types of disabilities include, but are not limited to, attention deficit disorder, dyslexia, intellectual disabilities, learning disorders, difficulties noted along a continuum of cognitive abilities, including adaptive, fine motor, perceptual motor, social, and language skills. Learning disabilities, which assumes normal cognitive abilities and refers to specially to problems in reading, arithmetic, and written expression. So, we've seen a lot more of this within the recent years, a lot more children being diagnosed with autism and, other intellectual disabilities. So we end up getting referrals once they hit 18 years of age. Therapeutic recreation programs, the Therapeutic Recreation Program provides services to adults with intellectual disabilities. So once again, once they're 18 or over, they come into the programs. All programs are designed to provide recreation, socialization, and educational opportunities. Staff members provide free drop-in activities which are appropriate to age and skill levels in a friendly and safe environment. And then once again, they consist of the Club Maple program, which is Thursdays, and then the Get Fit program, which is Mondays at Maple Park. We have a variety of activities, including arts and crafts, games, sports, dances, birthday celebrations, and other interactive activities. There's also special events held, such as a Halloween costume contest, a Thanksgiving event, Christmas party, Valentine's dance, and many more. So we'll get into those slides. This is our annual Halloween event that we do at Maple Park. There's a costume contest, and it gives all of the individuals a chance to get together and participate. This is our annual Christmas party, where we do feed our participants a Christmas dinner and as well as have a Christmas dance. Another slide from the Christmas party. This is our Thanksgiving event. In the past, we've been able to get donations from Honey Baked Ham to provide a discount on the actual food. So we are able to serve a full Thanksgiving dinner to the participants. Some of our participants. Our Valentine's Day dance, this is a very popular event. We've had a lot of marriages happen through this event, so we are proud of that. Once again, every February at Maple Park. The attendance for Club Maple, the weekly attendance has gone up. We are averaging at least 65 participants per week, which equivalates to 3,250 per calendar year. We think the increase is due partly, to the activities that staff plans, as well as just demand in terms of the program, because not a lot of cities in the SoCal area provide, these services for adults with intellectual disabilities. The Get Fit program is designed to educate adults with intellectual disabilities about how to start and maintain a healthy lifestyle through conditioning, exercise, and nutrition. Participants receive a weekly weigh-in, flexibility charting, nutrition tips, and a journal to chart their eating habits and daily exercise routine. Weekly activities begin with stretching and conditioning and include soccer, basketball, volleyball, and so forth. Once again, Get Fit meets at Maple Park on Mondays between 5 and 7 p.m. This is our basketball night. We do close down the gym, and basically it's 2 hours that we give just these participants, the entire full court of the gymnasium, so, they do appreciate that. Despite, the gym being heavily used throughout the year, we do allot that time for the participants to use the facility just for this particular program. The Get Fit attendance has risen. And, we do think it's the same attributes in terms of the programming that we've come up with every, week, doing something different, doing what the participants want, and so forth. Basically, the weekly attendance has gone from 14 participants weekly and 700 annually to 16 average last year with a total of 800. Questions? Comments?
I have a question. I see. Attend the what age group do you have the attendance? What age group they are?
So the programs that we're talking about, they're adults, so they're 18 or over. So once they're done with, once they're 18 at high school, we usually get referrals, and then we bring them into the programs.
And how long is our program? It's one-shot deal, or they can come back?
No, once they do the paperwork with us, which is basically, liability paperwork that we have them do to ensure, everything is kosher in case there's any injuries or anything. They're in the program and they're signed up. It's a drop-in program, so the participants are able to come when they're able to come. So they're not committed to come, every single week or every single month. It's just basically when they're able to come. But most of the participants enjoy the programs because it gives them that social interaction to have with other individuals. It also creates a community. So, if you're a parent that has, let's say, a child, well, I'd say child, but an 18-year-old with autism, you meet another parent that has a similar condition with their child, so that creates that bond. And, we've had a lot of those relationships form at Maple Park.
They are all from our community, or they can come from outside to participate?
Well, most of the participants are from Glendale. We do get some from the surrounding cities like Eagle Rock and Atwater Village, but the overwhelming majority are from Glendale.
I had a quick question. I noticed in the write-up it said that we were unable to do a partnership with Special Olympics last year because there weren't enough volunteers. And I was wondering if there's anything the city can do to help get volunteers or...
Sure. So the Special Olympics, we did get in touch with them about doing a partnership with the Get Fit program where they would come in and administer a lot of the programming that Special Olympics does within the Get Fit program and incorporate it. They have their own volunteers that actually are very well educated within the way that they do things because, we could assist, but at the end of the day, it's really them. And they did have some staffing shortages towards the end of the year and the early part of this year. So we have followed up with them, and we're looking to hopefully bring that this year to Get Fit.
Okay, so they're resolving that internally, I guess.
I believe so, yeah, because their participants are specifically trained on Special Olympics criteria and so forth. So hopefully this year we'll be able to bring them and incorporate them into Get Fit.
President Michaels, members of the commission, Commissioner Wolfson, about 4 months ago I met with the regional director of Special Olympics and offered her to use our facilities for their athletes to train. What she had mentioned is that their athletes are driving all the way to Northridge, some Calabasas, Pierce College, even though they live in Glendale, 2-3 times a week to train. So what we've done is we've made our facilities available. I know they use Pacific and GUSD sites, and in the hopes that their enrollment can increase and participation and representing Glendale at the Special Olympics will increase. So we have opened our facilities for them to use.
I know in the report it says that the funding is allocated within the general fund. Is that a specific line item or part of a larger program?
I believe it's part of the larger program within the general fund.
It's part of the Therapeutic Recreation Program. It's under Maple Park, but under the program level of Therapeutic Recreation.
Oh, I was asking about the Therapeutic Recreation. Is that a separate entity?
It's a separate program, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just happen to supervise Maple Park and Therapeutic Recreation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next is 6C, Section Activity Reports at 1 Recreation and Community Services.
President Michaels, members of the commission, we also have these reports in your packets. If you have any questions, please let us know. But we would like to move forward to 7A through 7E, because we do have a number of reports to share with you for the month of May.
Are there any comments? I do want to add that I attended the One Glendale Soccer Championship this weekend, and several parents came up to talk to myself and the other dignitaries that were there representing the Parks Foundation, the City Council, to express their thanks and appreciation for the One Glendale program. It gave me a chance to talk with parents one-on-one and hear their stories of how their children have appreciated the program and improved. So, thank you. Next item.
So moving on to item 7, reports information only, new, at A, South Glendale Community Plan Project.
President Michaels and members of the commission, my name is Laura Stotler. I'm a principal planner with the city, and we've been working on the South Glendale Community Plan at the direction of council for several years. What we wanted to do is give you an overview of what's in that plan. We will be making a recommendation based on what you tell us, as well as what we've heard from other boards and commissions, to the Planning Commission sometime. Probably it looks like we were going to do it May 30th, but we've had delay in our environmental documents, so we'll probably be taking it to the Planning Commission on June 20th. So whatever your comments are today, we'll make sure that we will pass it on to our Planning Commission. So what is the South Glendale Community Plan? If you look at the area, that's everything south of the 134 freeway, and also including our downtown specific plan area. So you'll see there's a small finger that goes up between Brand and Central, and that's up to Glen Oaks, and that's part of our downtown. A community plan is part of our general plan. It implements the different elements of the general plan, but it doesn't replace them. So if you think of a general plan, talks about different topical areas, including parks and recreation, conservation, open space, land use, traffic. We take those guidance that we have on a citywide level and direct it. How do we apply that in South Glendale? So that's what a community plan is. I know we had a link in a staff report for you. If you wanted to take a look at it, you could see how the community plan is outlined. I'm going to give you a brief overview here. Think of the community plan as a policy document. It's not replacing the general plan, it's giving us direction of how to apply that in South Glendale. The only exception to that, and I'll go over that in a minute, is there was direction that we got to actually create the plan from Metro, and it was about creating transit-oriented development policies in the area around our Metrolink station. So I know we've had some letters that came in earlier today concerned with recreation and how come we're not changing some of the recreation policies in the South Glendale area from what's in our current recreation element. Well, that's really not the purpose of a community plan. The community plan implements the policies that are already adopted at a citywide level in the elements. It just tailors it to South Glendale. So we're not changing a policy, we're just further expanding it and how we're actually going to implement it in South Glendale. That being said, the horizon time for this plan would be 2040. As part of putting together this plan, we did a new traffic model for the city, so we could be in coordination with the regional traffic models created by the Southern California Association of Governments. Our traffic model is also consistent with Burbank and City of Pasadena. So we are really getting a regional plan, and as part of that, it also includes multimodal. So we're including transit, we're including bicycle, we're including even pedestrians. That's something we didn't have in our previous elements in our previous traffic plan. We're also looking at changing sustainable land use patterns, basically based on transit and availability of transit in the future. We spent a lot of time in the community plan looking at community character and past projects. Again, the last time we did our land use element update was comprehensively back in 1977. We had a small update in 1986 related to multifamily. But really since then, our guiding documents that we're looking for growth in the future, other than the downtown specific plan, all those documents were essentially looked at from 1977, so we're carrying on essentially older policy. But in the meantime, since 77, we've had numerous smaller projects that have gone on in South Glendale, and so that's what you'll see in our community plan under Chapter 5. We go over at least 30 different projects that we've gone over. Many of them have been parks projects. And you can just think of Pacific Edison and the tremendous amount of effort that's gone on down there. That's just one of many. So back in July and August of 2016, we met with council. We had 3 different study sessions. They directed the option that were actually studied in the community plan. I'll review that in a second. As part of the council identified project, they also looked at 3 alternatives that they wanted us to study in the environmental impact report. We had a scoping meeting. We met with the public, what should be included in the environmental impact report. We did public outreach on that. We had over 18 meetings with the public in the fall of 2016, in addition to all the meetings we had with council. And in January of this year, we released a draft environmental impact report for 60-day public comment period. That closed in early March, and right now we're responding to those comments, creating a final EIR. We were hoping the final environmental impact report would have been done by the end of this month, but there was a delay. It looks like we're actually going to have it done early in June. And so again, you'll see notices for that. This was the option that council directed us to study. I don't think there's a pointer on this, but if you look at the area that's highlighted in pink, that's the area we're looking at having the most change in our land use in the future. Vast majority of that is our downtown, but you'll see we're also looking at putting in mixed-use growth along our corridors. This is where the growth is occurring now. You'll see it, it's along Colorado, up and down Central, and then not only the downtown area, but then also down with Tropico. And that's really where we got the grant from Metro, put growth by the train station. That's the direction that's been given to us at a regional level, as well as by council for this study. I should also point out, when you talk about a transit-oriented project, the green line that you say going from our transit center on up of Brand Boulevard, that would be a trolley, or streetcar that the city's studying right now. You'll see the red lines that go from our transit center. Those are existing bus routes that we have. And you'll see down that we have a dashed red line. That would be a BRT, Bus Rapid Transit. We're looking at having it from a Metro-funded project that would be connecting Pasadena on through Glendale and then on out toward either North Hollywood or the airport in Burbank. And those are projects that come through Glendale but aren't necessarily totally Glendale project, with the exception of a streetcar. That would be a project that would be completely within Glendale. The other thing you're seeing is a gray dashed line that runs along our train track. We're looking at not only having high-speed rail potentially come alongside Glendale, but also expansion of the Metrolink rail. So right now what we have is what we think of as commuter service. It does make a stop in Glendale. Should that be expanded and triple-tracked, we would be looking at having potentially local service as well as commuter service. So if you're familiar with New York, how they have local trains and express trains, think of it right now, we have an express train running through with commuters, but we could have local service. And if we have local service, we'll have additional stops. So you'll see on the plan where it has those M's, those would be new Metrolink stops along the rail line. And then we're also looking at an expansion, perhaps of the Gold Line or some similar either light rail or bus rapid transit along the 134 freeway. And then we would be looking at having additional stops there should that go in to serve residents in those areas. So that would be a stop near Glendale Adventist, a stop that would be at right along Brand, one that would be at Pacific. So the purpose of a community plan is to really focus on the neighborhoods. You have a general plan looking citywide, and then you have zoning, which looks at individual lots. But where's that middle policy level? And that's what we're lacking. That's what the community plan gives us. You'll see a lot of emphasis that's gone on neighborhood planning in Chapter 4. In fact, we've divided the city into 29 different neighborhoods, and you'll see how those are described in the plan. And again, I've talked about coordinating past efforts. We've had a grant to create the plan. I should mention transit-oriented development. That's what we're looking at putting in down by the transit station. A number of years ago, we did a San Fernando Road study and created what's known as mixed use down there at San Fernando Road mixed use. We would be looking at changing that and calling it transit-oriented development mixed use. As the zoning is right now for SFMU, San Fernando mixed use, it actually is higher density than what we're proposing as part of the South Glendale Community Plan. But what we're looking at doing is taking the heights down approximately 10 feet because we know when we see development that's gone on down there, everybody comes in with affordable housing. They add additional 1 or 2 floors. So the height will go back up if it's affordable housing. So we're looking at that as a tool to encourage affordable housing development by the train station. The other transit-oriented development issue that we have down there is we have Glendale Memorial. We know that as part of the hospital plan, every hospital in California needs to do seismic updates, no difference with Glendale Memorial. So we want to make sure that we're accommodating them so they can have future growth. We're actually looking at increasing their heights because they'll need it in order to replace their acute care tower. So we want to keep a hospital in Glendale, and that's our way of accommodating their needs as well as our needs for growth by the train station. We've also had other uses for Safe and Healthy Streets Plan. I believe you've seen that's come before you, I believe, in the past. We have a draft pedestrian plan. Policies from those plans we want to incorporate in the community plan. We also have historic context and historic resources survey. Those are incorporated as part of the community plan as well in Appendix A1 and A2. And in addition to the South Glendale Community Plan, we know we'll also need minor amendments to our land use and circulation element. We updated our local transportation model to match regional models. We have an ability to do an affordable housing overlay. If transit goes in along our major corridors, we'd be looking at increasing our densities for residential along those one block either way of those corridors. Then we'll also be looking at a downtown specific plan zone change. So we have 21 lots that people have asked to be included within the downtown. Most of those are lots that have split zoning. Right now, part of the property is in downtown, part of it's not. So we're looking at having all those lots included within the downtown specific plan so it would be clear what the direction is in the future for development of those properties. And then we also have 3 additional lots that were zoned C3-3. 3 is a height district under C3 that gives you up to 90 feet of height. Buildings in those areas are actually more like 50 feet in height, which is C3-1. So for those 3 lots, council has given us direction to study reducing the height of those lots. And one of those 6 lots is actually developed with an apartment building. So that one lot we would be looking at zoning R1250. Again, that would be the density of an existing building that's on the site. So this is what the land uses would look like if you were looking at citywide. Purple, again, is mixed use. You can think of the purple as being mixed use development. Right now, if you'll take a look at our map, it's mostly red. That would be commercial. So the difference between commercial and mixed use is essentially adding residential units on top of commercial on the bottom floor. We also have the orange and gold tones and the green. The kind of the lighter green in the Adams Hill area, that would be single family hillside land use designation. Right now we have low density. We don't have a designation for hillsides. So we're looking at creating one for hillside areas. And then the rest of it would be residential, those orangey colors. And we were looking at making no change to that at all. On the blue, that would be industrial. So that's right now where we have that's our existing zoning right now, mixed-use industrial. So we're making no change there either. And then the gray, that's the cemetery. And we're not changing that either. So Tropico is an area we are looking at making change. So this is the area where you see the purple star. That would be our transit station. And again, a focus on policy. So how do we get people to walk to the train station? How do we make that more appealing? How do we get people to take public transit? So really, a lot of the emphasis is on streetscape, making the sidewalks look nicer and safer. And I'll go through these quickly, but you'll see the main focus in that area for us is Glendale Memorial. So getting people back and forth between Glendale Memorial and to the transit station and also to the various bus lines that run through that area and potentially a streetcar, should Glendale put a streetcar in to the train station. Again, our goals maintain neighborhood character, walkable streets. We're also looking at economic development. If you're familiar with what's going on in Atwater, when a street looks nice and there's desirable uses, people go there. And so that we're looking to have that in our South Glendale neighborhoods as well. Looking at pedestrian safety, also infill housing. An infill would be reuse of lots that are already there, perhaps are under density, they're not maximizing the use of the property. We're looking at maximizing the use of the property through zoning. We're looking at pedestrian-friendly streets. Again, first mile, last mile. How do you get people to a bus stop? How do you get them to their destination? And then we're also looking at integrating open space. So if you already have open space on a sidewalk, how do you incorporate that into new development that goes on in the area? So we're also looking at perhaps having bike stations and things to get people out of their cars and active in the individual neighborhoods. And this would be throughout South Glendale. The focus might be getting policy direction in Tropico, but we're looking at expanding those pedestrian-oriented policies throughout South Glendale. That first mile, last mile, that would be a focus, especially along all of our major highways. So be it Central, East and West Broadway, Brand, and Pacific. We also have discussion of Space 134. This is the freeway cap that has been studied by the city. I believe there's an RFP out right now to study that. If that ever goes in the future, we have a placeholder for that in the community plan. And so for the next steps, we're looking at having our EIR released in early June. We're looking at having a planning commission meeting where we will hear from comments from the public and also comments that we've received from the various commissions we visited. We'll bring those to the planning commission for their recommendation to council. We're going to be asking the council to certify the final EIR and to take action on the project in July. I believe right now we're looking at taking it to them July 10th. And so all our materials are available online. Public's welcome to look at it. They're also welcome to give us any comments they have on it. And thank you for letting us do a presentation. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer them.
This is done between you and Eric. It's a good job. My question is, you have a manufacturing area, zoning, and then you're planning to have multi-unit, multi-use, different zoning. How easy is that process to change from manufacturing to other zoning? How do you go through it? What's the process?
Well, the city did that a while ago. They actually, when they did the San Fernando Road study, they adopted mixed-use zoning along San Fernando, and I believe that was done back in 2008. It might have been 2006. So we have what's known as IMU, industrial mixed use. We have IMUR, industrial mixed use with residential, and then we also have SFMU, San Fernando Road mixed use. So that zoning has already occurred. We're not looking to change that. We also have industrial zoning. That is pure industrial. We're not looking at the area that is pure industrial. We're not looking at changing that to a residential use. That would remain industrial at this time.
At the metro, let's take an example at the metro station. Are you planning to put residential area in there where it's manufacturing or commercial at the same time, right?
Right. Right now, the area that's by the Metrolink station is zoned SFMU, San Fernando Road mixed use. So we would actually be looking at lowering permissible heights in that area, but the uses wouldn't change. So you could still have residential, you could still have industrial, and it's a design challenge. When people come in, they have to be cognizant of what their neighboring uses are, but eventually we're looking at changing it to, eventually things will cycle out and you'll have more clean industry in that area. But yeah, we do have a couple of uses that are still heavy industry that are in the area.
Where do you plan to have, if we have to see a park for the south area, for the south residents, where do you see we can have a nice park for them? One of them or two of them, wherever is needed.
Yeah, in terms of the South Glendale Community Plan, we would not be changing what the parks element has right now. So we have a parks and recreation element, you have a conservation element. Our aim is to make sure that our community plan is consistent with that. So we're not going out and saying, for the parks that have developed since the recreation element was adopted, we are recognizing those parks And we just have general policy we are consistent with with our recreation element. So we haven't picked a particular property and said this should be a park or this area should be a park. Just a recognition in general, just like the recreation element has that we need additional park space, that's the same policy you're going to see in the South Glendale Community Plan.
And as far as Forest Lawn, they own the whole property, or the city has something in there?
Forest Lawn, they do have some property that's along
Glendale.
Avenue. Right now it has commercial zoning. We're not looking at making any change to their property at all. Their portion of their property that is cemetery, designated for cemetery, the part that's designated for not residential, it's designated C3, that would be commercial, but that would remain. We're not proposing any change at all to Forest Lawn.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions at this time?
Do you want to go? Go ahead. I understand that there's a general plan for, or recommendations for the green space and park, but I think one of the things that I've been talking a lot about is the kind of the city squares concept and incorporating, and they don't have to be large, pods of green space, but with respect to the plans that come forward to the Planning Commission, I've always felt like there's been a gap between planning and the Parks Commission. When you look at all the development that took place on Central, for example, an ideal situation would have been where with each of those buildings there was also some sort of green space and city square that kind of brought the neighborhood together, and not necessarily in a way that puts the green space inside the buildings where it's only for use by people that live there, but really creates that community feel. I'm not sure if that's something that's too specific to mention, but I think ideally if we are going to have kind of a broader plan to look at the possibility of a better cooperation between the parks and the Planning Commission when it comes to these things, and then second, the concept of those small city squares where it can just be a couple of benches, just a little bit of green space, but really brings the different neighborhoods together.
And I was going to say, I think we're actually on the same page with you exactly. Because right now, we don't have a document that requires people to put that in their plan. And so as projects come through, it's a case-by-case basis, and nobody's looking at the big picture. And that's exactly the kind of policies we need. So I would say we are 100% on board with what you're saying, because we actually have it in our different chapters for the mixed use, and I'm pointing for centers as well as corridors that are urban. So think of even the TOD area. We're calling out that we want improved pedestrian with transit links, and a lot of what that encourages is open space. We actually come right out and say open space and amenities activate centers. We have design guidelines that require at certain points in a project that they have an open space, such as by their front door where they have open space on a project level, that it's actually meaningful. So if you have a bench that's going to serve a development, then perhaps it doubles and it could serve the public walking by or a transit stop as well. So we have a lot of, we do have those kind of policies which are included in this community plan that are not in our general plan as it is right now. The real value, if I could encourage everybody, please take a look at the community plan. Use the link that's in the report. It's easy to Google it. You can find it on the city's website. Take a look at Chapter 4, because that's really where we have a lot of effort put into the policies. How do we make neighborhoods livable? And that's exactly what you're talking about. How do we get open space that's incorporated into a project? How do we get eyes on the open space so it's safer? How do we get people out walking? How do we have safe parking structures and access? People won't walk, they won't use a park, they won't walk to their cars if they don't feel safe. So there's a lot of design guidelines language that's in this community plan that we hope we adopt it. Even if we don't adopt any changes at all to the zoning or anything else, there's a lot of good policies, exactly what you're talking about. How do we make these individual developments, how do we maximize the open space that they provide, and how do we make it functional, and how do we make it usable for not just people in the building, but people walking by and in the neighborhood.
I sort of wanted to follow up on that. I think there's a lot of good things that are in the plan. I've looked at it. But I am somewhat concerned about two things. One is the impacts on existing residents and so forth, and it's a little unclear to me exactly what changes are being proposed. So I guess it's a little vague at this stage of the game, but following up on this other question, I just wonder, how does the policy in the plan translate with certainty into what's going to transpire in the future? Because a lot of times we've seen older housing stock that's more affordable be demolished, and it's not replaced necessarily by affordable housing.
Well, we can't guarantee that whatever comes in that replaces a housing stock will be affordable. But what we're trying to do is at least encourage that projects that come in are designed so where they fit in the neighborhood and don't change the neighborhood character. We're trying to keep the neighborhood character we have. We want enhancements, not replacements. If you think people come to Glendale because they like it. They come in because it's a safe neighborhood, safe area. We have good schools. We have good parks. How do we maximize that and not lose that? How do we keep that character and not lose it? And that's really what the emphasis is on the plan. In terms of what the zoning would be, we're not changing the residential neighborhoods. That is not our goal at all. Our goal is preservation of the residential neighborhoods, but we're looking at the change would be along corridors, because and it's based on transit. If transit comes in and becomes accessible and available, that's when we want to then look at changing residential densities adjacent to it. Right now, our maximum residential density our high density goes up to 35 units per acre. That is right now, our 1250. If you have a longer street frontage, it can actually go up to 40 units per acre. So that's what we're considering transit density. So when we're talking about most of these streets coming in, we talk about transit, that's what we're talking about. When it becomes available, we'd be looking at changing the block on either side of that back up to R1250. A lot of times prior to 1986, a lot of those areas were actually zoned even higher density. So you see a lot of areas in South Glendale, especially in South Glendale, that were built at higher densities than what we're even proposing to be as a high density when transit goes in. But what do you see change? Yeah, you might see change. But would it be change that would change the character of the neighborhood? No, we don't think it would. We think the changes that would come in, the densities that we're proposing would be consistent with what's already out there or has been out there in the past. I don't know if that answers your entire question, but can development change neighborhoods? Yes, it can. But our goal is to have development that doesn't change the neighborhood, but rather enhances it.
So then this would become part of the municipal code, or how does that?
The way it works is you would have your general plan is your highest level policy document. Then underneath that, as a policy level document, you would have your community plan. And then below that are the codes that implement, such as your zoning code, any of the other codes that we have. So if you think of it as a high level policy document, and so when somebody comes in with a new development, design review board, planning commission, your commission would be considering what does the community plan say with regard to the area that they're proposing a development. And they would have to be consistent with the policies. Right now, we don't have those policies. So everything is looked at on a case-by-case basis. This would actually require us to really have a bigger picture view when we're looking at an individual project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge and appreciate the efforts of the Planning Department for their outreach and seeking input on this. I've participated in many of those, and I appreciate the clarity of the summary, in the executive summary, in the sense that it gives people bullet points and very bluntly tells them what the impacts are, what the mitigation measures are, and can help them focus where their concerns with this document are. But following with the design in the open space, I have spoken out at design hearings specifically on that issue, more towards the density bonuses that were given for developments that would have an open space element. And I've been disappointed that that open space that is provided as part of that design is not publicly accessible, doesn't engage the community, but is relegated to a small little corner or patio that becomes mostly private use for that development, so I appreciate the efforts with that. But who is the final hearing body that would oversee the decision of what the open space requirements are?
It depends on who well, ultimately when this gets adopted, it's city council, because community plans go to the planning commission for recommendation, and then the council becomes the adopting body. But as projects are implemented, it just depends on the scale of the project. If it's in the downtown right now, all design review is done by the council, so it would be up to them to make their decision. But outside the downtown right now, it's the design review board. So just as the design review board has design guidelines they look at, they'd also have now, if this gets adopted, they would have design considerations that would actually be at a general plan level. If you think of it, it's a higher level policy document. There's no variances to a community plan. I mean, it has a higher policy value. It outranks the zoning code. If you think in terms of, if somebody comes in and say, well, I'm consistent, with the zoning code, but I'm inconsistent with the community plan, they would have to comply with the community plan in terms of hierarchy.
As a policy, I'd just like to see the procedures that Parks has, the terminology, the definitions of what Parks considers open space considered by the design review board, and have collaboration between the different hearing bodies to better define what that is in the policies.
Well, all I can say is, at least in terms of the community plan, this is drafted by planning as well as urban design. And the urban design staff are the ones that staff the design review board. They are at every one of those hearings. They were absolutely instrumental in creating Chapter 4. Chris Agarty, this is really her design. And Chapter 4, when it comes to the design features and and all of the design standards, no one knows it better than her, and she's the one that's at all those committee meetings. So, I mean, again, staff doesn't make those design choices. We give recommendations. They're implemented by the design review board. So we can absolutely make sure that the design review board will have the updated policy documents and when planning makes recommendations to them. But ultimately, the decisions do fall under the design review board unless they're appealed. And then they would go up the appeal ladder ultimately to council.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Then I will go to public comments. The commission did receive 2 emails, and we have 1 speaker card. So if we're ready, I'll call Catherine Yurka.
Good afternoon again. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Last month, I was here to argue that development impact fees should not be used in North Glendale because of the dearth of park space in South Glendale. And I just wanted to reiterate my concern about the lack of park and open space in the South, because it's a legitimate concern. I care a lot about my fellow residents, both in general, and I'm involved with several organizations in Glendale, and I've gotten to make a lot of friends in South Glendale, and they can't be here during an afternoon meeting, so I'm here on my behalf, but on theirs as well. The draft environmental impact report for the South Glendale Community Plan found that the impacts on parks and open space cannot be mitigated, that it is going to be so severe that there's essentially nothing the city can do about it. South Glendale is short hundreds of acres of park space, and it's not the fault of anyone in this room. However, we need to be very aware of that when we consider increasing the density even further. And the people that I know who live in South Glendale, some of them live in the DSP or just outside it, and they just wonder where all of the people who are going to be added in population are going to go to enjoy parks and open space. I don't think benches in a small hardscape courtyard as part of a new development are really open space. And I don't think that those address the needs of a growing population that has such a tremendous shortage. So I hope that as the Parks Commission that you will really take what's a crisis in open space in South Glendale into account when you make recommendations and comments regarding the plan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I actually do need to disclose, I know this individual is not here, but we did, the second email that President Michaels was discussing included comments about the GUSD site transfer, and I just need to note that I may have a conflict of interest in the future with that, as I'm working as with Carmel Partners on that project. So, is that fair enough? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there any other further comments, questions?
I'm just wondering if it's possible for us to acquire property using DIF money and make more open space in South Glendale. I don't know if that's possible. I just want to throw that out there.
President Michaels, members of the commission, we are looking into property in South Glendale. Property is at an all-time high, and we do not have enough DIF funds to purchase property because the $16 million was allocated in March of 2016. Right now, our fund balance, I believe, is around 1.5 to 2. Looking at a half acre, we're looking between 2 to 3 million, and half acre will give us a big mini park. And we're looking into more neighborhood parks, buying 2 or more parcels in the South Glendale area. So we are looking on a weekly basis.
I have commented and participated in the outreach for the South Glendale Community Plan and appreciate that it is going to the commissions. I'm a little disappointed that it's come before the Parks Commission before the final EIR has been completed with the comments and the responses to the comments. Some of the comments I've made, I'm looking for what the responses are. So I appreciate that it is going forward, but I'm a little disappointed it's going to some of the commissions before the document is complete. I do have one question as far as the mitigation measures. The document clearly states that the impacts specifically to park are significant, unavoidable, and cannot be mitigated. That doesn't strike me as something I'm happy with. To say we're going to have a plan, we're going to have problems, and we don't have solutions. I'd like to try and see more of a focus put on those solutions of, is this a problem of funding? Do we need to look at what the development impact fees charged are to be able to acquire more park space? I'd like to try and see more of solutions and mitigation measures proposed in this final document, specifically for the large impacts that are created. We've talked about finding park space. That has been an issue the commission has advocated for. The park space or the open space that we have, everyone would like to see meaningful and usable. And I'd like to see more of an effort put into finding solutions to those problems, specifically about the parks and open space in the final EIR and the plan that is approved and put forward. So, but I would like to just, for my own clarification and that of everyone, would you be able to reiterate what the schedule is going forward of when the final EIR will be approved, what the next steps are, and what the next opportunities for public comment are?
Yeah, right now we're waiting for the response to comments to be completed by our environmental consultant, and we are anticipating that that will be out the first week in June, and that would be essentially our final EIR. You have your draft EIR plus response to comments together. Those are your final EIR. And then we would be taking it to Planning Commission for recommendation on June 20th at a public hearing. So again, that would be the regular Planning Commission meeting, 5 o'clock. 633 East Broadway, MSB room 105, and everybody's welcome to come and submit comments or speak in person. And then the recommendations from Planning Commission will then be sent to Council, And right now, we're looking at bringing that to City Council on July 10th at their regular 6 o'clock meeting, although that hasn't been scheduled yet, but that's our goal of scheduling it. And we would be looking for City Council to give us a recommendation on the final EIR. We would be asking them to certify it and then give us recommendations on the South Glendale Community Plan project itself. So that would include not only the community plan direction on how they would like us to either adopt it or modify it, direction on the land use element, direction on the circulation element that would be needed to also implement the community plan. We'd also be seeking direction on the 21 lots in the downtown specific plan, although now we have a moratorium on that. I believe that is going to be put off for a year. And then we also have zoning on the 6 lots that are C33. So it's going to be quite a lot of actions that we're asking council for on the 10th, July 10th.
Thank you. Are we ready for the next item? Okay. Next item, please.
Next, we have 7B Adult Recreation Center and Senior Programs Annual Report.
Good afternoon, President Michaels, members of the Commission. My name is Seba Garavidian, Senior Community Services Supervisor with the Community Services and Parks Department. I'm going to be presenting on the Adult Recreation Center annual programs for 2017, as well as the Senior Recreation programs. So the Adult Recreation Center, the new building, as we like to call it, first opened its doors in on July 12th of 2010. This is after 60 years of working and operating in the old building, which was actually 2 structures. One was the meals building, one was the recreation building. In 2010, it finally got a renovation, a brand new building, and that's what is the Adult Recreation Center that you've come and visited today. It's one of the newest community centers out of the 4 community centers that we have in the department. The Adult Recreation Center technically is the newest building from ground up, zero construction. And it is located in downtown Glendale, just across downtown Central Library. We share a parking lot or an easement, the parking lot, and then we've got the Americana brand just a stone's throw away down the park and out the Paseo, and you're at the Americana. So the facility is open Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Fridays and Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. On Sundays, the facility is open for meals program only, so all we do on Sundays is serve our lunch, our senior meals program participants, and then we close the building back up. Outside of those hours of operation, we're always available for rentals, so if somebody wants to have any type of reservation that they want to have at that facility, we'll be able to rent them the facility until at least midnight, unless we get department director approval. So it's always available for rent, assuming there's no other program. Here you can see pictures of the front of the building, our pickup drop-off area, which is where most participants walk in from, off of Louise Street, where you can see that wheelchair coming down the ramp, and then a picture of our upper courtyard as well. Facility features and amenities, we've got the lounge. It occupies about 12 people, and typical setup in that lounge is theater style, and the programming on that TV is controlled by staff. What we do is we see what kind of special events are going on, and if there's, say, Winter Olympics, staff will be like, we're going to watch the Winter Olympics from this time to this time. We'll open it up to, you know, whoever majority rules, if you guys want to watch the news. But that's how we typically program it, so that it's not always one person, you know, taking control over the TV like some people may do it in their home. It's not their home. Everybody's got to watch and have an equal opportunity. But that's the lounge. It's a nice, quiet space. It's fun. Then we've got our dining hall. This is where our senior nutritional meals program takes place 7 days a week. And the dining hall is a multi-use room. So this is also where our drop-in exercise classes take place, and this is where our ping pong takes place. So that setup you see in the picture is for our lunch program, which we serve about 100 meals a day. That is set up between 10 and 10:15. At 1 o'clock when the meals program is over, it's broken down, cleaned up, and we provide table tennis in that room or a senior mixer or whatever other programming. And then it's broken down again and completely emptied out for exercise the next day. And basically, it's all about turnover, making that room change over for the next use constantly. The dining hall can accommodate up to 240 people if you use A and B combined, auditorium style or banquet style. Here's a picture of our game room. A better title should probably be the billiards room, because it's got 4 billiards tables an underutilized shuffleboard table, and the dartboard. But yeah, we've got 4 billiards tables, and it's a very popular room. When staff opens up that building at 8 o'clock in the morning, about 10 people run straight into the billiards room, and we don't see them until 8 o'clock at night. I'm kidding, but yeah, they're there as early as we are, and they leave as late as we do, and that billiards room is always utilized. Then we've got the exercise room, which is right next to it, off of that main rotunda. The exercise room has a bunch of machine weights, and it has 2 incumbent bikes, 2 treadmills, and 2 cross trainers. For the exercise room, we do require that the participant purchase an additional membership. So it is open to seniors and adults. For seniors that have an activity card, which is $10 for the year, the exercise room will cost them another $50 for the year, not monthly. So for a total of $60, they could use that exercise room. For adults, it's a $25 activity card, and if you have an activity card, the annual membership for the exercise room is $80 a year. So $105 a year as opposed to however much on a monthly basis at a private gym. And it's open whenever the building is open, Monday through Saturday. Here's a picture of our courtyards. We have 2 courtyards, the upper and the lower. The upper courtyard is great for having a reception of any kind and then having that event move over to the dining hall because it's right off the dining hall. The lower courtyard is the picture on the right. That's good for more private, intimate outdoor events, but you want a little bit more privacy because it's right off Central Park, but there's gates and everything that kind of separates you from Central Park. So it's good to have an outdoor event, but you're still secluded off because you do have that fencing around the perimeter. At that facility, so we provide a bunch of senior programs and events. Most of the drop-in programming and activities are based on the majority of our clientele at the Adult Recreation Center, which is the senior population. Here's a picture of our lunchtime celebrations, which we work in conjunction with the senior services section and our senior nutritional meals program staff. And basically, it's an opportunity for both the center and the meals program to engage our seniors and have them socialize and interact more. And we use themed holidays and celebrations as our excuse to decorate the facility and bring a little bit of joy into an otherwise everyday type of a dining room in terms of setup or decoration. We also have, like I mentioned, drop-in programs. So here you see pictures of backgammon, dominoes, chess. The lower left is our senior mixer. Very popular program. We have a lining up 30 minutes before we open the halls to the doors to the dining hall. And then on the lower right, we see our drop-in table tennis program. Here's a chart of our participation numbers for each of these drop-in programs, card games, board games, anything along those lines, chess, dominoes. We get about 41 participants a day. The fitness room, the exercise room gets about 29 people per day. Billiards participants, about 27 per day. Table tennis, we get 25 per meeting. Karaoke's once a week, we get about 7 people. Not too many singers, and the staff appreciate it when it's not a karaoke day because we don't have too good of a singer population. Bridge Club meets at least once a week. Sometimes they meet up to 3 times a week depending on what's going on, or if there's a tournament coming up, they want to get more practice in with their partners. So we accommodate them. Senior mixer comes once a week, and then we have a knit and chat group that meets up once a week as well. Now, what's cool about the knit and chat group is whatever they knit when they meet up, they turn back and give to a donation to Jewel City Knitters, who in turn gives it to various organizations and donates whatever's been knitted. So it could be little beanies for premature babies that they've knit that they give out to various organizations. It could be shawls or throws that they give out to a Native American community that needs it, and Jewel City Knitters actually gives it out to various organizations. It could be a Wounded Warriors project, but our participants in the knit and chat group will actually sit and organize, knit and prepare some of these items that we turn around and we donate to other organizations. Additional services that we offer at the Adult Recreation Center is we reload Metro tap cards. Some people mistake it as we sell them. No, we do not. We'll reload them if you have a Metro tap card, and we'll provide the paperwork in case you would like to get a Metro tap card if you want to apply for a senior disabled card. We do sell Beeline passes, whether it's student or senior, it doesn't matter. We have a myriad of Beeline passes that we sell. We provide health screenings and informational presentations, and those are through our collaborations with various organizations, and then we offer high cap Medicare counseling as well. Drop-in exercise classes are part of the contract class program, but they're pay as you go. It's not like a typical 10-week contract class, so it's done on a daily basis or weekly basis depending on the class. So we offer muscle toning with weights 4 times a week, aerobics 3 times a week, Tai Chi 3 times a week, slow stretch once a week, and Zumba twice a week. That Zumba class has become really popular and they've outgrown the space. You could see the right pictures from Zumba in the morning. They just need a lot more space for movement, and the dining hall is at capacity when we're having Zumba. The lower left is a picture of our Tai Chi class. Tai Chi is led by a volunteer instructor. Zumba is led by a contract class instructor with a straight hourly rate. We also offer classes through Gundel Community College. The 2 classes that we offer at the Adult Recreation Center is a lip reading class and a film appreciation class. And participants who would like to sign up for those classes sign through Gundel College's Garfield campus and then turn around and take the class at our facility. Basically, we're providing the space to Gundel Community College. Here's some of the community collaborations, organizations that we collaborate with, and I'm not going to go down the entire list, but basically anybody that's providing services for that population, we collaborate with, and the collaborations could be, again, whether it's a hospital providing a health screening or an insurance company providing a health screening, to somebody like Helpful Honda people saying, we want to sponsor 50 seniors and doing a gingerbread house during Christmas. What do you guys think? And we say, sure, come on over, bring the gingerbread houses or have it delivered and we'll make it happen type of a thing. So there's a lot of opportunity for collaborations in that way. Some businesses are willing to pay for entertainment for a specific event. Other businesses want to pay for a birthday cake. Whatever the case may be, we are always working to work with various partners and agencies, whether they're coming to us or we're referring out services to seniors, services that these customers or organizations provide to seniors, and we refer our seniors out to them. Here's our fiscal impact, and the fiscal impact, or the expenditures for the Adult Recreation Center are from 2 fronts, the Special Revenue Fund and the General Fund. Here's an outlook of the General Fund, 2017 calendar year compared to 2016 calendar year. A slight increase, about $1,100. And here's the fiscal impact for the Special Revenue Fund. Here we're looking at like a $2,000 or $2,500 deficit from the previous fiscal year. But what we're also noticing is that facility rentals has gone up about $4,000. Whether exercise classes has gone down slightly, equipment rental has gone up. The biggest impact is the salaries and benefits, where we had a vacancy in our salaries and benefits the previous year, calendar year. This year we filled that vacancy, and that's where that $9,400 is coming from. That concludes my presentation. If anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Next is item 7C, Senior Services Annual Report.
Good afternoon, President Michaels, members of the Commission. My name is John Malakian. I'm going to give you a presentation on the senior service programs. We have 3 components to our programs: the Supportive Services Program, the Home Delivered Meals Program, and our Congregate Meals Program. There's a photo of our case manager, Eliza. We get our referrals from Glendale Police Department, Glendale Fire Department, Adult Protective Services, Adventist, Glendale Memorial, out-of-state family members, neighbors, and landlords. This is an example of a hoarding situation that we went in and we were able to help a senior who was struggling with hoarding. So we were able to gut the apartment, take out all the bed bugs, and we dealt with the cockroach infestation. So we removed the carpets, we painted the walls, we were able to get the senior back on their feet and stabilized. A little more about the Home Delivered Meals Program. Clients must be 60 years of age or older, homebound, live in the Glendale Locker Center and Montrose area. They get 7 frozen meals a week. There's a delivery once a week. They get 7 pints of milk, 7 pieces of bread, and fresh fruit in their deliveries. This is an example of a delivery. Meatballs, noodles, cauliflower, whole wheat bread, butter, low-fat milk, juice, and fresh fruit. We do emergency meals also. A little more about the Congregate Meals Program. The Adult Recreation Center serves meals 7 days a week. Spar Heights serves 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Pacific Community Center does Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. an example of a congregate meal, chicken parm, spaghetti, peas, red peppers, pineapple coleslaw, birthday cake. We just recently had Older Americans Month where we celebrated a few special events. This was last Wednesday. You could see it was a fantastic event. Our seniors were dancing, hanging out with some vendors, getting an opportunity to get outside, enjoy the sunshine, and socialize with one another. We had a crooner come out to our event, and he did a great job really providing some good entertainment. Older Americans Month proclamation on May 8th. Rafi Nazarians accepted the proclamation from AARP. Los Angeles County Older Americans recognition. Dawn Moore was our Volunteer of the Year this year. So we went to the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, had a nice meal, and she got recognized by the county. We did Let's Do Lunch 2018, and that's a fantastic picture of everyone that came out to contribute. We do appreciate the staff coming out and helping us out serve food. So as we get close, we'd love to invite the commissioners and council members as well to come out. I think that's a fantastic photo. Again, senior needs assessment we had on April 17th. Council approved the senior needs assessment. We're in the process of figuring out the committee and some of the details. We're not sure exactly when we'll be starting, but we're getting close, and we'll give you further details as we get there. Thanksgiving Food Drive 2018. This year we increased the number of bags that were donated by about 30 bags, which is fantastic. It's an example of some of the different themes and ideas we've had. Staff have decorated bags. We've actually bought grocery totes where seniors can then use to go and buy groceries and things like that. So it's a little more useful to them. Santa to a Senior, we have one of our staff dress up as Santa Claus and deliver gifts that are donated by a nonprofit called Home Instead. They ask us potentially how many seniors might need gifts, and we go out there and we make sure that they get the best treatment they can. This might be the only gift they get during that time of year, so we want to make it special. Some of the services participations, we have over 45,000 60-year-old seniors in the Glendale area. The Supportive Services Program serves 120 unduplicated seniors annually. We serve over 40,000 meals in the Congregate Meals Program, 11,000 home-delivered meals program. Meals are served a year. 2,000 telephone reassurance calls are made annually. And the City of Glendale is the only agency in the county to offer seniors the opportunity to eat a hot meal 7 days a week. Senior service funding, LA County, Los Angeles County grants, participant donations, City of Glendale's general fund, and one-time only grants. Any questions? Thank you.
I believe just our thanks. The next item, please.
President Michaels, members of the commission, the record will show that Commissioner Asatrian left at 3:57 p.m. And the next item is 7D, Spar Heights Community Center Annual Report.
We don't have, President Michaels, members of the commission, we don't have a prepared presentation, but if commission does have any questions on that specific report, because a lot of it was covered through the senior services and the reports in there. So if you don't have any questions, we'll move on to the next one.
I think we're ready to move on.
Okay. Item 7E, section activity reports. At 1 is recreation and community services.
President Michaels, members of the commission, so I'm going to do the recreation section monthly activity report for the month of April. And I wanted to highlight that on Saturday, April 28th was our big day camp registration day that we had for all of our day camp programs citywide. And that took place at 9 a.m. At Pacific Community Center. We processed 267 customers on that day between 9 a.m. and actually 6 p.m., even though we were planning on finishing at noon. And the reason for that is we underestimated the turnout on that day, clearly. And we served 267 clients, which resulted in over 1,100 registrations. If you count per week per child, that's what it turned out to. And all of the camps at Pacific Community Center sold out on that first day. And there was some space available at Maple Park Community Center, even though by the time Monday morning showed up, most of those camps were selling out as well. So we want to highlight that even though it was a good idea of doing it all on the same day at the same location, next year our recommendation is going to be to move it back to the way it was the year before, where everybody registers at the site that they want to attend camp, or their kids want to attend camp, but keep it on the Saturday instead of doing it on a weekday like we've done in the years past. So the Saturday worked, except all in one place didn't work. We should split that back up, and that way we could spread out our resources kind of calmed down. 267 people waiting for us. Other than that, we also had our aquatics registration, which was on the same day. And for aquatics, it was for residents, Gundel residents only. It was online and in person. And it was the first time we were offering online registration for our aquatics program. We had some technical difficulties, but we were able to resolve them throughout the registration hours. And by the time Monday morning came about, we were on good track moving forward. And Monday, April 30th was the day, general registration day for everybody. And by the time Monday had arrived, all of our issues were resolved and we were registering people normally, whether it was in person or online. I also wanted to highlight the summer 2018 discount and scholarship policy. So we had a total of 31 applicants for the discount order scholarship, of which 26 of them qualified for a full 100% scholarship. We had to have a lottery based on the number of applicants, and seven individuals were selected for the Maple Park day camp in terms of a full scholarship, and 5 for Pacific Community Center. And I was hesitating on the 7 to say whether it was a household or kids. They are actual 7 kids. We had 7 registrations, 7 individuals registered at Maple Park, and 5 at Pacific Community Center. All the ones that didn't get selected via that lottery were automatically qualified for the 10% discount, and it was on them to decide whether or not they were going to register for camp via the 10% off or not. I'd give more information when we do our summer program report coming in October, and we could figure out who did and didn't after that, because technically they're still eligible, assuming they come in and their space is available at the camp. Okay. On April 19, Club Maple went to Jewel City Bowl for their annual bowling night. Youth and Family Services section had their usual typical teen night outs. What I want to point out is teen night out has started on a weekly basis at Maple Park Community Center. So what we're doing at Pacific Community Center every other Friday night, we're doing weekly at Maple Park. And that was to fill in the gap that we had created as a result of a partnership with one of our local nonprofit organizations. So when they moved to the YWCA, the teens were still showing up at Maple Park, and we jumped on the opportunity and started programming for them at Maple Park Community Center. The eventual goal is to offer a weekly activity at both community centers. So we're probably going to phase that in after the summer season when schools start back up and we could advertise properly. We're continuing our high school lunch program and our high school lunch outreach. And a couple of weeks ago, we got My Glendale Teens approved citywide. So My Glendale Teens is going to be marketing to the teen population specifically via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and social media, and promoting all of their events. And also in April, we brought out our mobile skate park, which was sitting and available as a rental package, not getting too much usage. Pacific Park is where it was being stored, so we decided on Monday nights we're bringing out that mobile skate park and offering it to the teens for a couple of hours on a Monday night. Unfortunately, we're not getting too much participation until the teens really understand that you're not allowed to use the skate park unless you have the proper protective equipment: elbow pads, knee pads, helmets, release a liability form. So hopefully by the time they understand all that, our numbers will start increasing. I also wanted to point out that on April 27, our One Gundel After School Youth Program staff, along with some of our recreation staff, participated in the ACES Field Day at Rosemont Middle School. That's when Glendale Unified School District reached out to us and asked us for our staff to provide the leadership activities, or the adult staff to provide the leadership roles in some of the programs and activities they had planned for their participants at the ACES Field Day. So it was our One Glendale staff, whether leading an activity or officiating a game or helping out on the climbing wall. Our Trails and Open Space program had 39 members come out to hear from the Southwest Herpetologist Society and their presentation on snakes, lizards, and frogs. On April 14, I want to highlight that the Friends of the LA River and the Community Services and Parks Department partnered up for the Great LA River Cleanup. That event in itself attracted over 200 volunteers between the hours of 8 a.m. and 12 noon. And then also on April 28, we had our One Glendale and Trails and Open Space Go Glendale Outdoors recreation component for our One Glendale program, and that took place at Brand Park. We had 36 participants from the One Glendale program participate in that. And then moving on, the Civic Auditorium in 2017-18 compared to last year around this time, there were about 50 events at the Civic Auditorium in this last quarter from January through March. And Of those 59 events, 50 were private events, and 9 were outside deliveries. And also I wanted to highlight that compared to 2016, our revenue in 2017-18 has increased. And that's on page 7 of the report. If there's any other questions about that report you would like me to highlight or clarify, please let me know.
Thank you very much. The next item?
Next item on the agenda is 7E2, Park Services.
So good afternoon, President Michael, members of the Commission. We'll be presenting on activities for the month of April. Our crews completed 135 work orders, of which 82 were groundskeeper work orders and 53 irrigation crew repairs, for total labor hours of 841. In our presentation, we have a couple of months' worth of projects that we wanted to highlight, but keeping the presentation short, we've only selected a handful that we want to share with you today. One of them was at the Casa Adobe de San Rafael. If you see this timber, we had created a couple of little landscape areas within the turf, called them the small gardens. And the timber, over a period of time, this is 10 years ago when we first built it, deteriorates. So this project came in, removed the existing timber, cleaned the area, and just put in new timber that would, hold things in place, makes it safe for kids when they're running around so they're not going to trip and fall. And we're probably going to get another 10 years out of this. And some of these areas will, occasionally get replanted. Dying plants will be moved out, and staff will be replacing the plants to get a nice little area for the community to use. Fremont Rose Garden. Every February we do the pruning of our roses. Some people look at it as a challenge to prune roses, but February is the ideal time to prune, and there's 2 ways of doing it. We use this opportunity to train some of our staff who had not had the opportunity to work in roses. One way to do is very light pruning, the other is very hard pruning. These are very old stock, and we do hard pruning on these, where you basically take it down to just 5 stems. And most people will get scared that this is not going to sustain itself. However, just given time, this is what it looked like after the job was completed. Given just enough time, come springtime, they start blooming, and the entire area, every single rose bush we have out there will bloom beautifully. At City Hall, we had, on an annual basis, we plant the front about 3 to 4 times a year. Our staff went through, I believe this was also in February, had gone through putting the spring flowers in place. And unfortunately, there was a couple of rallies that were held outside of City Hall had caused some deterioration of the planting. So within the next month, we'll come back with hardy plants for the summer, and we'll be replanting City Hall plants up front. Glorieta Park, during the heavy rains, we experienced flooding of our playground, and unfortunately, we had to keep it shut for a few days. It was not safe for kids to be in the area. After a little while, we determined that it was a broken a drain that was under the concrete walkway. Once we determined what it was, we had staff go and work with a contractor that worked in the area previously. We removed all of the debris, all the dirt, and fixed the drain. This is how we fixed the drain. Very low. We're not able to go any deeper because we are on a reservoir at Glorieta. And fixed it so water will still flow. We drained the playground and had the pumps working just perfectly fine, as you note here, the outside area where the drain was linked to. At Montrose Park, this was a recycling center, recycling area several years back. We worked with integrated waste. They used to have a recycling bin in this location. Over the years, we had removed the recycling bin, and this area was no longer designed to have people bring in their recyclables. However, people almost on a weekly basis were still dumping their materials. Whether it be trash, recyclables, or not, they would use this area to dump all of their trash and debris. We'd go in there with staff, clean it up. We'd call integrated waste. They'll help us clean it up. But the following weekend, you'd have the same problem again. So we put our brains together, figured, what can we do in this area? We decided to completely remove the entire recycling bin area, dispose of all the concrete, remove the concrete, bring in some dirt, and raise the area, fix the irrigation, and voila. We decided to turf the area and increase our green space. Most people that we ran into after the job was completed were very pleased that that little old recycling area is gone, and then we have replaced it with a very nice, beautiful turf in that corner. Similarly, at Montecito Park, which is an entrance to the Montecito neighborhood area, we had the residents ask us, this was the main entrance. They asked us if we can replenish this landscape and make it similar to the northern end where Spar Boulevard is at the southern entrance of Montrose Park. So we had staff go in, move some of the planting around, have this area prepped, redesign the irrigation, and we put inside at this location as well. This is essentially what they requested of us to do, and it does make it look a little nicer. We're going to go back in a couple of months, do some tree trimming, but essentially staff went in and beautified the entrance to Montecito Park neighborhood. Palmer Park, this was just on the outside of the skate park, where we had challenges growing anything in this area because kids were using this little hillside to go up and down. Whatever was planted was destroyed. We had irrigation, as you see, the tubing we used for irrigation were very visible. It had holes. It had a lot of damage. So we decided to go in there and do something different with the landscape. We essentially removed the tubed irrigation. We put in just your typical risers, sprinklers for the area. You can see the timber. We created a layer, a tiered planter versus what we had before. And with the tier planter, it created a nice little area for a separation from the playground to the planter, and we had DG on the opposite side separating the skate park through the base concrete, DG, and then the planter. And this is the picture of the shrubs going in. This is also going to help keep some skateboards from flying over to the playground. Apparently when some skaters are going to a little bowl and they're flying up, the skateboard itself are flying over to the playground. Well, with the hedges we put in place, once they grow in fully, they're going to prevent the skateboards from flying over to the play area, making it safer for all users of the park. At Car Park, if you might know, we started the removal of the playground project back in January, February. This was a dual project, including us and the contractor to do the installation. So our crews went in there, removed the existing playground, and don't have a lot of pictures in between. This is the final picture of the playground installed, which was open to the public, I believe, late March. We had a lot of delays due to the rain, and you really can't pour concrete after it rains. As soon as the rain's dried, they're ready to pour. It rained again. So we had several weeks of delay with the project. But at the end, this turned out to be a very active playground, and on day one, I believe, was heavily used. The second one was at Nibley Park. We started late March in this one, early April in the removal. Again, our staff went in, demoed the existing playground. We removed all of the existing footings. We were able to haul away all of the existing fall material and the debris to bring it down to a level where the contractor had agreed to be the ideal level for them to come in and do the project. For the record, this site was designed to be rubberized surfacing, but we ran into some challenges. What we noticed when we went out there, when they were doing the survey before the project started, that the far end, which I would call the east end of the playground, is 3 feet higher than the west end of the playground. That created a severe challenge for us because we have 2 mature sycamore trees that we wanted to preserve within the playground. If we had removed any more dirt and dropped the west-east side by 3 feet, we would have caused some serious damage to the tree, which would have resulted in its removal. We want to preserve it because, for one, it is a sycamore tree, it is healthy, and at the same time, it's going to provide shade for the kids that are going to play in the playground. Another reason why we determined to keep this playground, we kept that 5-bar at the end, is because if we had to remove 3 feet of dirt from the east side, we had to remove the entire curb around it, recreate it, raise it up at fencing, go back through the permitting process, farther delaying the project. That was secondary to trying to preserve the trees and keeping things flush. Hence, we determined to go with the 5-bar material. We don't have a lot of shots of the playground, but again, the moment we opened this playground on Friday, the first fence came down. I had 10 kids running in wanting to use it. And I forget the young man's name, I should have remembered. He was the first one. He was proud of it, too. He's 2 years old, of course. This was the project at Nibley Playground. And I believe, Commissioner Wolfson, you had addressed some concerns about the turf in the area. We're aware of it. We actually are designing the Nibley restrooms in the near future. It is in design phase. We're hoping that construction will commence after we go through the permitting and the designs are all approved by the appropriate bodies. After the restroom project is completed, we're going to be looking at the landscape because we don't want to go in and do the turf renovation where we're going to have still a lot of construction, heavy equipment going through and cause damage to what we just re-landscaped. So the playground, then the restroom, and we'll be addressing the landscape, especially the turf at Nibley Park in the coming months. Those would be the presentation of the projects the last 3 months or so.
I just wanted to say that I know that new playground is very popular. I mean, there's been kids there screaming and enjoying it and just like laughing. It's just wonderful to see. So thank you.
Yes, It was a very popular play area, and families love it, kids love it, and even a 3.5-year-old approached me on Friday, thanked me for building a playground. It's just touching, and that's why we do what we do.
Well, I want to thank you, and I want to acknowledge for all of the staff, your photography skills are getting better.
Thank you. I don't take any pictures, but I will pass that on to staff.
Thank you. The next item,
Next is adjournment.
we stand adjourned.